Hi! If you're like most people and you get your news from the mainstream media with those endless parade of pundits and talking heads who act like they know what they're talking about, then you've probably heard lots of warnings about how our spiraling debt is going to cause interest rates to spike higher. Well, I'm here to tell you, you can relax. It's not going to happen. How can I be so sure? Because all of these very smart pundits have a totally wrong understanding of America's debt and how interest rates are set. For starters, if you look at the trend of the debt and the trend in interest rates, the correlation has been the reverse. Rates have been going down as the debt has been going up. And in the past 3 years, the debt has risen exponentially while the rates have been accelerating lower. Now, for some real perspective, let's go back a bit. In 1980, the national debt was only $800 billion, but interest rates were at 20%. Now the debt is nearly $16 trillion, or 20 times what it was in 1980. And rates, well, they're at zero. How can this be, you wonder? After all, interest rates in places like Italy and Greece are skyrocketing, and they have huge debt. Well, the answer is Italy and Greece don't have their own money, and that's the big difference. Countries that have their own money, like the United States or Japan or the UK, spend by issuing that money, so they're not actually borrowing. And anyway, why would you have to borrow your own money if you could just issue it? If you think about it, the whole concept doesn't make any sense. Furthermore, the rate is set by the central bank, which in our case means the Fed. And here's something that may surprise you. The Fed actually has to work pretty hard just to keep the rate from going to zero. That's right, I said zero. It would go there on its own. Now, it might be hard for some folks to understand, but think of it this way. When the U.S. government spends those dollars, they settle into the banking system. The more dollars that are there, the lower the rate goes due to the growing supply of those dollars. That's where the Fed and the Treasury come in. They coordinate their efforts together to set the interest rate. The Treasury will sell securities to sop up some of those excess dollars in the banking system, and the Fed will fine-tune that with monetary operations to keep the rate where it wants. The Fed uses interest rates as a primary tool to affect the economy. Not that that really works, but hey, we'll leave that for another day. That's why when the debt went up 2,000% from 1980 until now, rates went down. The debt of the government is nothing more than the net amount of money, dollars, issued to the public, which is now being held in treasuries, which are nothing more than really savings accounts of the U.S. government. The debt doomsday crowd, which is what I like to call them, has totally gotten this wrong. They've been warning about an impending debt catastrophe for the past 40 years. They've never been right, ever. They simply don't understand how the Fed and the Treasury work together to set interest rates. Maybe they just don't want to understand. And if you ask them why their dire predictions haven't come true, they'll tell you, well, don't worry, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. Hey, it's not a question of if, but when. That's kind of like saying one day the sun's not going to rise in the east. You know, it's sort of useless information. On the other hand, I can tell you exactly when rates are going to rise. They're going to rise when the Fed decides to push them back up, and not a moment before. That's all there is to it. Forecasting interest rates actually is pretty simple. You just sit around and wait until the Fed tells you what it's going to do, then you act. So if you're buying a home or shopping for a mortgage or just looking for that best rate, check out what the Fed's monetary policy is and all the guesswork will be gone. But let me get back to my original point. The size of the government's debt has no correlation to the interest rate for countries that issue their own money. So when you hear the debt doomsday crowd warning of a debt spike or somebody not wanting to buy our bonds, just ignore them, or better yet, have yourself a good laugh, because those are just silly, ignorant comments. Well, that's it for now. See you next time. This is Mike Norman saying bye-bye.